promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Burkina Faso secures $150 million facility to boost its digital sector. Mixed reactions greet the celebration of Nigeria's Democracy Day.
In the light of coup d'etats across West Africa and even beyond West Africa, I think it's important to count our wins.
Democracy is supposed to be the government of the people. Now we're supposed to rule the country. But some cabal, they take the country ransom.
And Ghana's Narcotics Control Commission intercepts cocaine worth $6.4 million from two British citizens. And ruling government in Côte d'Ivoire denies accusations of intimidation against the opposition. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Gambia, Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone. We begin in the Sahel region, precisely in Mali, where the opposition has denounced claims that it intimidated members of the Synergy Action for Mali after they went out last week to demonstrate against power cuts and the high cost of living in the country. In a press release, the coalition opposing the military regime indicated that since the weekend, there has been a presence of unidentified individuals around the homes of some of its leaders. It described this situation as witch hunting. The Synergy Action for Mali says it will not give in to what it describes as pressure, determined to continue its fight against untimely power cuts across the country. Recall that last week the opposition coalition called for a demonstration to denounce the electricity cuts, the high cost of living, but also the management of the country by the ruling military. And in Burkina Faso, the population has mobilized 74 billion CFA francs between January and June 2024 to support the fight against terrorism. The donation, which was announced by the presidency, has been deposited in the Patriotic Support Fund, PSF, of the Burkinabe Treasury. According to the Burkinabe Authority, these funds will be used primarily to train, equip and maintain the volunteers for the defense of the homeland, the Army's auxiliary. Augustine Coley tells us more.
In the name of the fight against terrorism, the government of Burkina Faso hopes to raise 100 billion CFA francs by the end of 2024. So far, the population has contributed 74 billion CFA francs to the Patriotic Support Fund. This has been a satisfactory result for the military in power, who have welcomed the citizens' mobilization, expressing hopes of exceeding the initial target of 100 billion. As a reminder, these funds will be used to train, equip, and maintain the volunteers for the defense of the homeland, who are army auxiliaries engaged in the fight against terrorism. In Ouagadougou, observers are calling for greater communication and more detailed reporting on the use of these funds to encourage citizens to continue contributing to the Patriotic Support Fund. Bokare Wuba is a journalist and security analyst in Burkina Faso.
En réalité, souvent, les autorités même ne communiquent pas de façon assez claire par rapport à cette mobilisation de fonds.
In reality, tourism often doesn't communicate clearly enough about this frontline mobilization. We don't know exactly how far we're able to take a look at the BDP's defenses. This announcement that 64 billion has been mobilized is expected at the end of the year. It's up to the authorities to tell us exactly what the 64 billion will be used for. Obviously, if there is greater transparency in all the use of defenses, we will be more encouraged to make such sacrifices. But as I said, there's no communication. So, all this means that we don't necessarily have all the right information about the aggression, but it's up to the authorities to work on being transparent.
Last year, 99 billion CFA francs were mobilized by the population to help the state in its fight against terrorism.
Augustine Coley with that report. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso has obtained a loan of $150 million from the World Bank. The loan was validated at the Transitional Legislative Assembly on Tuesday, June 11, 2024. The money will improve accessibility and appropriation of digital services in the country. The Interpolitical Committee (IPC) of the Gambia hosted a convergence on the theme Facilitating Women's Political Empowerment. The conference aims to address the critical barriers women face in the political arena and to develop actionable strategies to enhance their participation and representation. Here is WADR's Sankle Janko in Banjul.
The event brought together political leaders, activists, and stakeholders from across the country, all united in goal of enhancing women's participation in the political landscape. The committee underscored the critical need for gender equality in governance, emphasizing the need for empowering women politically. Seuba is the co-chair of the Inter-Party Committee.
Women are the primary drivers of the Gambian economy. The Gambia stands to gain much more than it has today when our women participate more in all spheres of our social life.
Women in Gambian politics face significant underrepresentation. Despite comprising more than half of the population, their political participation remains low. In the 2021 parliamentary elections, only 3 of the 19 female candidates were elected, comprising only 8% of the 58 National Assembly members. The Secretary General and Party Leader of the Gambia Democratic Congress, GDC's Mama Kande, encourages women to come forward and participate.
The fear that you have in you, you have to do away with that fear. You have all the rights to participate in any political platform, to aspire for any position in this country. It's your right.
The convergence concluded with a call to action, urging all political parties to commit to concrete steps towards gender parity. For Newslink on West African Democracy Radio, I'm Sankula Janka reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, the International Trade Union Confederation, ITUC, in a report published on Wednesday reveals that workers' conditions are getting worse. The annual report focuses on workers' rights worldwide. It underlines that the situation of African workers is worsening every year. The continent's rating fell considerably this year. The right to strike is violated in several countries and workers are prevented from meeting or organizing. The right to strike was violated in 93% of African countries in 2023, and workers were excluded from the right to form a union or join an existing one. In several countries, trade unionists are either dismissed, imprisoned, or deprived of their primary rights. In Nigeria, for example, the number of imprisoned trade unionists has increased. In Madagascar and Guinea, threats to dismiss striking staff have multiplied, and in Burkina Faso, the right to assembly has been withdrawn from trade unionists since the military coup.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we are live on wadr.org and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Côte d'Ivoire has adopted a new penal code that emerged from the modification to Article 185. However, the opposition suspects the government of seeking to muzzle dissenting voices. Facing the press on Wednesday at the end of a meeting of the Council of Ministers, the spokesperson for the Ivorian government, Amadou Coulibaly, spoke on the issue. More details with Oge Berika.
While the Ivorian opposition sees the adoption of the new penal code, which it describes as unconstitutional and liberticidal, as a means of depriving people of their freedoms, the government spokesman clarifies the situation. Amadou Coulibaly asserts that freedom of expression in Côte d'Ivoire is a reality. Further, Amadou Coulibaly pointed out that the change is being made to bring the Ivorian criminal law in line with a society in which new crimes have emerged. It must be stated that the new text was adopted after it received 124 votes to come into force as compared to the 72 for the opposition side.
Oge Berika with our report. Let's cross over to Ghana now, where the Narcotics Control Commission, NARCOC, in collaboration with the UK National Crime Agency, intercepted a massive haul of cocaine at the Kotoka International Airport. The operation, which took place on Monday, June 10, 2024, led to the seizure of 166 kilograms of substances suspected to be cocaine with an estimated street value of $6.4 million. Tisu has the rest of the details.
NARCOC, in a statement, said the contraband was discovered in the luggage of 2 British nationals identified as Hor Shamin Ethlin and Graham Omar Adele, who were scheduled to depart on a British Airways flight to Gatwick. Each suspect had checked in 3 bags, all of which contained the illicit substance, amounting to 72 slabs of suspected cocaine. The breakdown of the seizures is as follows. Hall Shamin Ethlin's luggage contained 83.44 kilograms of the suspected drugs, along with personal items, while Graham Omar Adele's luggage also held an identical weight of 83.44 kilograms of the substance, accompanied by personal belongings. Following the discovery, both individuals were arrested and are currently assisting with investigations. According to NACOC, the operation underscores its vigilance and unbiased commitment to ensuring the safety of travelers and its readiness to address threats related to drug possession at flight terminals.
That was a report filed in by Eche Atisu. As Nigeria marked its Democracy Day yesterday, Wednesday, citizens and experts are expressing mixed reactions about the country's democratic journey. While some praise the progress made since the return to civilian rule in 1999, others lament the lingering challenges and unfulfilled promises. WADR's Usman Umar in Abuja completes the story.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has highlighted its achievements in infrastructural development, economic growth and anti-corruption efforts. However, critics point to ongoing issues like insecurity, poverty and electoral malpractices. Deborah Yusuf is a communications expert and public affairs analyst.
I think that it's important to also remember that especially in the light of coup d'etats across West Africa and even beyond West Africa, I think it's important to count our wins while we recognize our losses. But I think the challenge has always been denying those losses.
Some citizens also shared their concerns about the country's democratic journey.
Democracy is supposed to be the government of the people. Now we're supposed to rule the country. But some cabal, some big men, they take the country ransom. They control the country in the expense of we, the public.
We are not enjoying it in this democracy for its own matter. I so much thank God for this new regime of Tinubu regime and what over the border that he opened. I love it.
Despite the mixed reactions, many Nigerians remain optimistic about the country's democratic future. Shehu Atta, a young politician and aide to Governor of Kogi State on youth affairs, said with more youth participation and inclusion, things will be better.
I won't say that we are there yet, but then, so it's a work in progress, and I will believe that, if everyone does what he's supposed to do, the future will be bright for all of us.
As Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day, the debate over its democratic journey highlights the need for continued efforts to strengthen the country's democratic institutions and address the pressing challenges facing its citizens. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Well, we remain in Nigeria as citizens have been reacting to an incident involving President Bola Tinubu missing a step and falling while trying to climb the military parade review vehicle yesterday at the Eagle Square, Abuja, venue of the national event to commemorate the country's Democracy Day. Usman Omar spoke to some citizens in Abuja, and here is what they have to say.
Anybody can fall. I don't think I can stand and start laughing at my president because he fell. I understand that Nigeria is going through some difficulties, but I will not use that to start judging an old man that fell down. No, not at all.
Has brought so much of stress on people right now. People are not happy with that man, honestly.
To me, on the way I feel, he might have slept. That sleeping must not necessarily be it might not necessarily look at that in its negative form. When people sleep must be mixed a step or one or something like that. So I don't see it making headlines. So no more things.
It's quite unfortunate. We witnessed such thing from our president, but it can happen to anybody. I only wish him well because it can happen to anybody. So I wish the president of Nigeria well, and we will not see such from him in our next celebration.
Yeah, I saw it on the platform on Facebook and all that, and him falling. Anyway, he's our leader, but still we still have to back him up. I will not rejoice because our president, they said he fell from this and that, but we still pray for him and pray that he he'll be healthy, at least to take the country to the best, to the next level. So I'm not in support of maybe mocking him or he's good and all that.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Burkina Faso secures a $150 million facility to boost its digital sector. Mixed reactions greet the celebration of Nigeria's Democracy Day. Ghana's Narcotics Control Commission intercepts cocaine worth $6.4 million from 2 British citizens. And the ruling government in Cote d'Ivoire denies accusations of intimidation against the opposition. Still ahead in the news, we have the press review, guest interview, and some sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. The Fisheries Committee for the West Central Gulf of Guinea, in partnership with the government of Liberia, has commenced a 2-day dialogue geared toward ending illegal fishing in the country. Illegal fishing activities undermine emerging blue economy initiatives across Africa, costing states billions in lost revenue, with Mauritania, Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, and Sierra Leone alone losing $2.3 billion annually to illegal fishing. From Monrovia, our correspondent Darlington Popper has more.
Illegal fishing activities also undermine management and drive the depletion of fish stocks, threaten food security, and drain valuable resources from the economy. At the start of the conference in Monrovia, the Fisheries Committee for West Central Gulf of Guinea Secretary General Dr. Antonio Agustin underscored the need for collaboration between state actors to fight illegal fishing activities.
I'd like to highlight that this is the first task force meeting under phase 3 of the support from NORAD, and this brings the commitment from NORAD to 12 years to the task force, which is quite remarkable. It's a real testament to all the hard work that has been done by everybody in this room and everybody who's been involved with the West Africa Task Force over the past 3 years.
For her part, the head of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority of Liberia, Emma Glasgow, emphasized the need for policy reforms to ensure harsher punishments in order to deter the practice of illegal fishing.
Liberia has gone a step forward by developing a national plan of action, and also we've been able to train a lot of our FMC staff in adequate monitoring and control of vessels plying our waters. I think this is important to note that Liberia is making significant strides in the effort in the field of MCS. But it's most important when we do it together as the sub-region.
As the global demand for fish increases, it is likely that the intrusions of foreign fleets into African waters too will. Hence, these regional actors are working to curb the practice of illegal fishing. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper in Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Today's press review takes us to Ghana, where WADR's Nadiri Tete is standing by with a summary of the major and banner headlines.
Greetings from Accra. Let's find out what the dailies are reporting today. We'll start off with the biggest newspaper in the country, the Daily Graphic newspaper. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, Ghana secures pact to suspend bilateral loan payment until 2026. Also here on the front page, National Health Insurance Authority settles 300 million Ghana cedis claims. And purge toxic political space. Majority Leader Kwame Nkrumah urges the media. That'll be it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. Let's check out what others are reporting. The New Crusading Guide newspaper front page. Stop pressurizing Bawumia to name running mate Hackman Owusu Ajiman. Well, he's a chairman of the Council of Elders of the governing New Patriotic Party. Other stories here on the front page. Ghana reaches agreements with official creditors. And also here, Cocoa Board makes huge profit in 2023. Let's now go to the Chronicle newspaper. Front page of the Chronicle newspaper. Alan Cash vows to transform the North with heavy investments in agriculture. And Baumia to Otumfo. My government will focus on solar and railway. Other stories here. Wisnet wants to sell La Palme and Labadi Beach hotels. Let me take you to the Finder newspaper. Front page of the Finder newspaper, inflation drops to 23.1% in May, and the Institute of Economic Affairs reiterates call for independent fiscal council. Other stories here, Five States Hotels cash trapped, never paid dividends despite 233.8 million investment. Final story here on the front page of the Finder newspaper. Ghana and Official Creditor Committee agree debt relief terms. Now to the Daily Guide newspaper. Front page, Otumfo Lord Baumia, you are respectful and humble. And Gamanche leads Clean Accra campaign. One of the stories on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, NDC kicks against free SHS bill. That's according to the majority. Well, the next paper directly responds to that. The next paper I have here is a New Day newspaper. It says here that NDC not opposed to what it's birthed. So that's the response from the minority to the claims by the majority that they are opposed to the free SHS bill. And also here on the front page of the Newsday newspaper, it says here, police arrest Amenfi East NPP parliamentary candidate for inciting Galamsey comments. The National Enquirer newspaper, Mahama pledges, says he will restore collapsed banks after unbiased assessment. The other stories here, Ghana's cocoa supply crisis worsen, and the election 2024, NDC's trump card is its credibility. That's according to the party's General Secretary, Fifi Fiavi Kwete. So the Yanka newspaper, one of the stories here, CSOs threaten demonstration over locked up drugs at the ports, but the Ministry of Health insists only mosquito nets are in the containers. Then on that note, we'll end today's edition of the Newspaper Review segment with me, Nadi Tete, coming to you from Accra. It's back to you in the studio.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
We head back to Nigeria this afternoon for the guest interview because 24 hours after the Democracy Day celebration, debate continue about efforts, policies and reforms by the current government to alleviate the sufferings of the citizens. As the event climaxed on Wednesday, President Bola Tinubu slipped and fell while embarking on a military vehicle for the traditional military review at the Eagle Square, Abuja. The presidency has yet to issue any statement on the incident. As you heard earlier, Nigerians hold differently on Tinubu's accident, but not with the many issues such as the deteriorating security, inflation and currency depreciation, poor healthcare and education, and workers' welfare crisis between the labor unions and the federal government. Speaking to WADR, Adeni Kunu explains the foundational problem he sees with Tinubu's administration and the role of stakeholders, especially the civil society organizations, in ensuring good governance and accountability.
Now, we expected the current leadership to sell off some of the presidential air fleet because that was what they promised, to run a very minimal administration so that we can spend little on government. But they have done worse than that. So if you also look at it, let me put it on record. When he took office and gave his inaugural address to the citizens on May 29, he violated a laid-down rule regarding the removal of fuel subsidy. Fuel subsidy was supposed to be removed end of June, about June 29th or June 30th of last year. He came and on May 29, he said fuel subsidy was removed by fiat. He disregarded the officialese or the officialdom of when subsidy should be removed, and he turned the country into economic chaos. The error he made at the foundational level is the cataclysm that the government of the country is still experiencing.
Well, so is it too late for President Bola Tinubu to maybe address some of the errors, as you've rightly mentioned, and get the country working once again and make it livable for Nigerians who today are embracing the so-called Japa syndrome?
There is room for redemption. The Constitution allows him 4 years or from broken leadership. He has only used one. If we did the arithmetic, he has more time to address all of the problems caused. He has to first of all look at the errors that his administration caused at the beginning and be particularly selfless. You see, we're talking about primary health care, we're talking about security, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about a livable wage, we're talking about a government having a human face. Whatever macroeconomic policies they put in place, every macroeconomic policy is still coming to impact the microeconomic levels of every country, and it therefore behooves them to understand that businesses, services, inputs, blueprints, strategies cannot be what it is without people getting the right impact of what has been made sure of. So if he looked at all of the reactions of people and he looks at the possibility of reviewing the input of those in his cabinet, and we're able to indeed say, okay, we had 10% here before, we can take steps 1, 2, 3 to get it to 40%, then I think things will become better, as it were. But if they go on this trajectory, it's going to be even worse by the end of his second year in office. But I think also that the followership must begin to reason through, because the followership is also very, very key to any kind of leadership. If the followership in the country do not stop being sheep and they're able to reason and they're able to get wise and make informed choices, if civil society organizations don't always wait until it's another election cycle to be seen or heard, we can have a very powerful force that can put government on its toes so that they can do the bidding of the people and not the other way around.
Adenu Kun is a public affairs analyst. In the world of sports, the head of the football governing body FIFA arrived in Malawi Wednesday, where he proceeded to the Bingu National Stadium in Lilongwe. The stadium hosted the day before the 2026 World Cup qualifier that pitted Cote d'Ivoire against Kenya. During Gianni Infantino's visit, he notably met with the sports minister as well as the head of the Malawi Football Association. This is the first time that Infantino is visiting the country, which coincides with a period of national mourning following the death of Vice President Salus Chilema, killed in a plane crash. Elsewhere, thousands of athletes in both major and obscure sports will be vying for medals in the Russian city of Kazan at the 6th BRICS Game, an international competition shadowed by politics amid Russia's exclusion from a major sports event. The Games opened Wednesday, which Russia observes as its Independence Day holiday, underlining the key role that sports plays in its national identity. And that's it on Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and David Vincent for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. We also stream live at WADR.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is WADR's environment flagship program, Enviroscope. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.